Help support the companies that support our community. I'm going to start out with the base, and I have a piece of maple here. It's about 3.5 inches diameter and 2 inches tall. So I'm making a tenon down on one end of it so I can grab it in the chuck, and then we'll get it all trued up and shaped. To true it up, I'm using a Spindle Gouge, and the lathe speed's at 3,000 RPMs. And then I'm going to round over the bottom of it with the #1 hollower, and we're going to put a recess in the bottom of it so we can use the jaws to expand it. I'm just making that recess in there so I can get the jaws in there to hang on to it from this end too. Before I flip it around, I sanded up the little recess there because I'm not going to be able to get back to that after we flip it around. Get that all cleaned up, and we'll change jaws again and put it back in the chuck. So what didn't run through my mind at this point was I needed to put the beads on the bottom of it. I will talk a little bit more about that here in a second. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. Just in the moment, turning it, and didn't think about what I was actually making, I guess. So I'm going to use the #1 hollower again and take off the tenon that I actually really needed. So I'm just rounding over the top of this, and you'll see here in a second that there's a defect in it, so I bring it down a little bit smaller than I had planned, because I am going to use the beading tool and put some beads on this. There's a little spot on it that's kind of like a little rod spot, and I needed to get rid of that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put a little cone, hollow out a little cone shape in the center for the stopper I'm going to use. And so I started out with the #1 hollower just to get the diameter down, but because I'm just doing a cone shape, it won't go in there very far. So I switched over, and I'm using one of D-Way's box tools. So it's a point tool, and it's a negative rake. So because the point tool will actually just go inside of there and not hit on the heel, I'm just making that cone shape with it. And I tested the stopper a few times as I'm going down, so it was a nice fit. Just kept working at it, cleaning it up until it slid right in there. So it wasn't until this point right here when I started to do the beads that I realized I had screwed up and didn't do the beads on the bottom first, because there's no way to get to them when you get back around to the other side. So I ended up making a little jam chuck, and you'll see that here in a second to actually finish the beads on the bottom. But I'm using the Easy Wood, the beading cutter, and just going around with that. So I'm using one of the, I can't remember what size it is. I'll put a little pop up here. I can't remember which size it was. and just going all the way around it. And then we'll get to the bottom here in a second after I flip it around. What I did, you can't really see it in the video, but I just created a little cone shape with a waste block and then brought the tailstock back up to get that cleaned up. But before I did that, I had to go ahead and burn the lines with the wire burner and go ahead and do the basket illusion part of it, the burning for that. So I grabbed my nunchucks wire burner and went and burnt as many of the lines as I could. And then once they start going around the curve, you can't burn on the face of it. So a deck of playing cards, just grab a couple of them, 2, 3, and you can wrap them around and burn those lines with that. And it works really well. Just a little bit of pressure. It takes a little bit of time playing around with it to try and get the same consistency as far as color goes, but just play around with it and you can get a nice burn with those. So for the burning of the basket illusion part, just set the indexer, have my wire burner all set up on the platform, and just work my way around. I did every hole. My indexing system is 48. So I went ahead and ran all the way around. This probably took half an hour or so. So once you get the line burnt, turn it to the next position and just keep working your way around. So it really does. I'm not going to do really any coloring on this one, but the effect from this is it's just a really nice look. It looks like a woven piece. And I love the fact that it darkens up the wood too from burning it. So it just gives it a nice effect. So there's the little waste block cone I turned, and I'm just doing the last 4 beads on the bottom. And then to line everything back up to do the burning again, after I use the cards to burn the lines in it, I loosened everything up, set my platform all back up, and slid it up to one of the lines, locked it down with the indexing system, and then went from there and then finished it off. So you can put those little grooves in there, they're burnt in there, so I just slid the tip of the burner right into one of them, locked it down, tightened it back up on the lathe, and then set the indexing plate. So that way, when you go around again, everything lines right back up. Now that that's done, we're going to move on to the top of the stopper. So I did a demo the other night and I had this block all ready to go. So it's just a short little bottle stopper blank. I put the insert in. So we're going to turn it just like a regular bottle stopper. It's just going to be a little smaller. It's going to be a little ball. And again, this is out of maple. It has some nice spalting in it. It kind of shows up a little bit with the burning, but not too much. And the lathe speed, this is a Spindle Gouge and lathe speed again, it's up at 3,000 RPMs. So I just brought that little tip down on top just a little bit, but I left it there until I got most of the beading done. So for this one, because it's a lot smaller, I used the D-Way beading tool. And this one, again, I don't know exactly what it is. I'll have a pop-up for it on the size, but it's a small little beading tool. And it works great. And so I just worked my way around and got the whole thing beaded. And with this, I just keep moving the tool rest a little bit, trying to, get it lined up with it so that the tool's right on it. Then now that we got around there, we can go ahead and clean up the top of it here. Just pop that little tip off there, and then use the #1 hauler to clean it up just a little bit. And what's nice about doing, with the beading tool too, is there's no sanding. You don't need to sand this because you're recutting everything. So it's just a nice process, and it gives it a nice texture too. So same process with this. I switched the size of the wire on the wire burner to the smaller one, and we'll go ahead and burn as many as we can with it, and then grab the playing cards again. So on this one I just used one card and kind of folded it over because it really, the beads are a lot smaller, so that little groove is smaller. So just kind of played around with it until I got the right size in there. Once that was done, put the platform back on. And it's really, as far as basket illusion stuff goes, this is a nice way to do it. You have that platform lined up so that the burning tip is on center, and you can just go around. You don't have to put pencil lines down it and then come back, and you just go around. And so same thing with this. I just ran through all 48 positions on it and worked my way around and burned it. So if you're gonna make one of these little platforms or the little holder for the burning tool, how I lined everything up was I made that little cradle for it, made the platform for it, and then you just bring your tailstock up, and the tip of your live center, or you can actually just use the spur center too, the tip of the spur center, line that burning tip right up on that. Make sure that that's perfect. And then on the bottom of the little post for the platform has a ring, a locking ring. So once I got it all lined up, I just locked it down. There we go, got it all done. And so the base is 3.5 inches in diameter, and there is the stopper. So I used a little smaller beading tool on it. I really like doing the basket illusion. It is a lot of fun. So I didn't color this one. I think gonna maybe put a band of black around it so it kind of looks like a little lidded box, but I like the way it richens up the wood. It darkens it up. So for making that cone shape, you don't have to do that. I just happen to have that tool, but if you want to just use a Forstner bit, drill down in there, it will fit in there the same way, just like it would fit into a wine bottle and go right down in there like that. So the 6000 is it's a cone shape stopper, so it doesn't stand up. You can't display your work with it, so it's not as popular as the other ones where they stand up and you can display the work. They have to be, thrown in a drawer or something. So making a little base for it really adds a nice touch, and so something like that really makes it stand out, and then you can leave that on the counter and then whenever you need it. All right, hope you enjoyed the video. I hope everybody has a great weekend, and we will see you next time. Take care.